At number 10, we have Suchomimus. Among all the remodels and ability and stat changes that have happened to a lot of different dinos, Sucho has remained a strong, higher mid-tier playable. Its claw barrage, stomp, and bite damage make it the perfect all-rounder for dealing with both apex and lower tier creatures. Ambushing doesn't really work for smaller creatures as Suchomimus only has medium land speed and no real way of stopping them from escaping. Because of that, you're better off hunting things in a similar weight class or higher than you to effectively get killed. Being semi-aquatic is fantastic for Sucho as it allows you to use the water as a great escape from land creatures, and you can use land to escape from those who are more relegated to the water. That gives you a larger ability to regroup and rethink your plan of attack should you find yourself losing. Sucho's large health pool also ensures that any fight you have with one will never be easily won. Overall, it is awesome to know that with all the changes that have happened in the game, Sucho remains in the top 10. Number 9 is Hatzegopteryx. Hatz has been a menace since its introduction to Path of Titans last Christmas. Since then, Hatz has enjoyed a lot of buffs and new abilities that help it perform extremely well against low and mid-tier creatures. Its long neck and beak give it some good range, which allows Hatz to attack while keeping its body somewhat away from its enemies. Its land speed is comparable to Sucho, which makes it super easy for it to run down mid-tiers. If smaller creatures do decide to fight back, they will find it very difficult to attack without receiving damage in return due to Hatz's incredible turn and play speed. Hatz's best ability is its grab, which allows you to seize smaller creatures and fly up into the air. If you fly high enough and drop them, it allows you to get a kill with minimal effort. Hatz can also take on apexes by using its stab ability, which ignores the weight and armor of the target to deal massive damage. The Evil Eye passive reduces the damage of the creature nearest to you by 20%, which increases your chances of survival significantly. With enough coordination and persistence, Hatz can take down anything in its way. At number 8, we have Allosaurus. Allosaurus has always been a really good pick in the game, but that doesn't stop me from wishing that it was as fast as it used to be when it first came out. Allosaurus has such high damage that you could kill most things in your weight class or lower with just a standard bite. After that speed and turn decrease, they shifted Allosaurus from being a small game hunter to focus more on larger prey. For a while, nothing has really changed with Allosaurus until they came out with the hatchet bite. Even then, it still wasn't as much of a bleeder as they wanted it to be. To address that problem, they increased the bleed on both the hatchet bite and its claw attack so that it does the second most amount of bleed damage behind Concavenator. This works really well for its ambush playstyle as stacking bleed really limits the movement of your opponents. Allosaurus does have a tail attack which is pretty useless, less health, damage, and defense, and no vocal ability, which is why it is lower on this list. At number 7, we have Daspletosaurus. Daspletosaurus has always bounced between being OP and being annoying, although it was pretty useless when it first debuted. A large part of their kit was their bone break and heavy bite ability, which heavily limited the speed and turn radius of other dinos. But the change from bone break to fracture means that Daspletosaurus needed to become more nimble and more powerful. The devs accomplished this by giving Daspletosaurus better turn radius and better stamina, as well as having fracture still have a slowing effect on your enemies. You can still trigger a bone break if you stack enough fracture damage. This changes Daspletosaurus' playstyle from an ambush to more of a brawler. The goal is to outlast and slow down other mid-tiers and completely destroy lower tiers. Their damage does still give them a pretty good chance against apex and high-tier dinos, but their health makes it a very risky option. Still, you can tailor your abilities to focus on low and mid-tier creatures or high apex creatures. Be aware though that choosing one will make you more vulnerable to the other. The remodel also comes with a bunch of terrifying new animations that really bring to light the aggressive nature of this dinosaur. At number 6, we have Iguanodon. I am really happy with the changes they made to our stabby herbivore. When it first came out, Iguanodon was terrifying because of its acceleration. It could go from standing still to in your face faster than most mid-tiers could turn around. People complained about it and that was nerfed. Add in the fact that it had terrible turn radius, and without that speed, Iggy was very easy to take down. Now we can switch from bipedal to quadrupedal with better turn radius and damage. Like the Daspletosaurus, Iggy has abilities that focus on bipedal or quadrupedal combat. Bipedal is very good for holding your ground and defending yourself, while quadrupedal is more for chasing people down. Add in the fact that you have an armor breaking ability as well, and it's very easy to fight other herbivores that are tanky. Most mid-tiers can barely hurt you now because your kick does so much damage. You still have a tail slap, and your stabs also do a lot of damage. Iggy is still outclassed by a bunch of other dinosaurs on this list in terms of health, damage, and defense, but remains a solid option. Either way, I'm just glad that they made Iggy fun again. Number 5 is Anodontosaurus. Ano hasn't changed much throughout the year. That is until they decided to rework bone break into fracture. Ano does a high amount of fracture damage and it lasts for a long time. Since fracture can still cause bone break, not too much has changed for Ano's playstyle. You still can use hunker to defend yourself, you can still break ankles to stop people from chasing you, and you still are the slowest when running away. So although a lot of smaller creatures have gotten DLCs and reworks, they are still no match for Anodonto's armor and damage. As for apexes, you can still get cheesed if they have multiple group members, and it takes about 2 shots to bone break them now, so they get a little bit more of a chance to do some damage. Bleed is your main weakness, and it is really tough to actually stack that on Ano. When they're moving around or sleeping is the best chance to ambush them, and if you have an ability with strong enough knockback, you can actually stop them from doing hunker. Of course, you'll really need to follow that up with some strong attacks for it to make a difference. Still, you're pretty much winning any 1v1 that you have, and you still can get snatched by Sargo in the water. Seeing how things have gone so far, I'm sure that Ano will be getting a TLC of its own in the near future. At number 4, we have Spinosaurus. Although it is higher on this list than it was before, we all know that Spinosaurus has been in decline. While a lot of people still play Spinosaurus, it is not the oppressive force that it used to be. Yes, it still has high health and high damage, but so do a lot of other creatures. The range for its attacks is still massive, but it doesn't compensate for creatures that are super fast. The only ability that did help was the tail slap. However, all tail attacks have been reduced in damage on all creatures and given knockback instead. The knockback isn't really strong enough for me to care, and how does that help creatures with really bad turn radius? Spino's best ability by far is its stomp, because the attack range is spherical, meaning even if you jump, you'll still get hit with the full amount of damage. No aquatic or semi-aquatic has received a TLC yet, although Suchomimus did get a remodel last year. Because of this, I'm uncertain if Spinosaurus will get any kind of rework or TLC that'll make it more fun to play. It definitely feels like Spinosaurus is heading for last place when it comes to the best apex to play. However, Spinosaurus is higher on this list in general because of the fracture changes, which keep T-Rex from pinning you down. Overall, don't be surprised if Spinosaurus makes a comeback. At number 3, we have Eotriceratops. Over this past year, Eotric has actually gotten a couple of buffs. They increased their max health by 300 points, and they reduced the Sharpened Horns ability cooldown basically by half. Because of how little changes Eotric has received over the past year, it still is a massive tank that steamrolls everything in its path. Its damage still shreds mid and small tier dinosaurs, and the range of the attacks makes it really hard to get around them without being hit. Only apex dinosaurs can really try to fight Eotriceratops head on because they have the health to tank a couple of hits. Fighting against aquatic creatures tends to be their most difficult battles because Eotrics cannot resist charging you down if they see you come out. They know they can kill you, and that's what keeps them in the perfect range to get hit by ambush attacks. If you're a land creature that isn't super fast, you really are out of luck, as they will just definitely charge you down and beat you without even trying. Because of this, your best option is to stand and fight as long as you are using bleed and have a group with you. At that point, it's just a war of attrition, as you're really just waiting to see if the bleed will take them out before they do. There is a mod that I think plays more into Eotriceratops being a herd creature, which is kind of what I would like to see from this if they decide to do a TLC in the future. Right now though, Eotriceratops helps keeps the balance of power in an area where there are too many apex carnivores, and a great pick for solo players. At number 2, we have Tyrannosaurus Rex. I know you T-Rex mains have been waiting for this the whole video, so here he is. T-Rex is several tons of muscle mass and is largely unbothered by most creatures that try to fight it. That's because any damage you might do has to go through layers and layers of its massive health pool, but that's not the only thing that makes it so formidable. T-Rex's turn radius is surprisingly fast for a creature of its size and can really catch smaller creatures off guard. Its tail attack used to do a ton of damage, but now it does very little damage with knockback like most creatures were relegated to. Their stomp ability definitely feels like the most OP move they have, as even if you jump over it or you're far enough away that you think you wouldn't get hit, you will still be hit. Its regular bite still does the most damage damage of all the bites, which represents this creature perfectly. In fact, teaming up with a T-Rex can be dangerous as they could accidentally kill you with a simple misclick. Bone Break used to be extremely valuable for T-Rexes, but now since it's been turned into Fracture, it doesn't do nearly as much as it did before. Yes, Fracture does slow down your target to make them easier to hit, and yes, you can still trigger a Bone Break if you build up enough Fracture, but they still won't be as slow as before, making them still pretty troublesome. So overall, it's just about timing. Tyrannosaurus Rex hasn't received a full-blown TLC, but I would love for them to add like a shove or knockdown ability for our glorious king. At number 1, we have Tyrannotitan. Tyrannotitan is the newest addition to the official roster and came out literally a couple days before the new year. Tyrannotitan barely edges out T-Rex for the number 1 spot on this list, mainly because of the changes to Bone Break. Tyrannotitan is very fast, has high damage, high bleed, and amazing amounts of stamina. They also gave it Juke, which is an ability that Picnemosaurus had first. Being able to rapidly 180 really makes the fact that its turn radius isn't amazing pretty irrelevant. It is also the only apex dinosaur that has gotten within seconds of killing an Onodonto while in Hunker. Its regular bite does both high damage and bleed, while its other bites basically multiply that bleed. Hitting an opponent with all of that will either force them to stand still and try to fight, or they'll run away. All of this combined makes it the perfect endurance-based bleeder. That's it for this list. If you like it, definitely check out the video I made last year. I had a lot of fun making it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.